ripping and roasting. Yeah, that's what we do. Set 'em up, knock 'em down, make that cherry glow. Whiskey and cigars, the gentleman's cologne.
Cheers, y'all. Well.
That sounds like a party just about to begin.
It sounded like I was dying. Is what it sounded like. It was a very strange well.
It was curdling even.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Blood curdling, as a matter of fact. Welcome to this fine radio program, podcast, and video extravaganza known internationally as the world-famous Smokin' and Toastin'. It's episode number 386. Our show is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. We are going to talk all of those things today because we are on location at Vinyl Draft in Kemah, and we're really excited to be here. Our second time we've been here.
Yes.
And so I think the most important thing to note is that we were actually invited back.
There's that.
Because that doesn't always happen.
I mean, I did have to ask.
Yeah. All right. We'll still consider it a minor win. Doug, the proprietor and owner of Vinyl Draft, is with us. Doug, pronounce your last name so I don't get it wrong.
Meisinger.
Thank you. Because I always want to go the other direction for some reason with that.
No, everybody, I've gotten to the point now where I don't care how you say
you don't
it.
even correct it. Yeah.
That's nailed it.
As long as they don't say, hey,
you're talking about Doug
you
M
answer,
over
right?
here?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So Doug Meisinger is the proprietor of this fine establishment. Amazing restaurant downstairs and upstairs. One of the most comfortable cigar lounges I think we've ever been in.
If you're in the Kemah area, and you're looking for great food, it's here.
Absolutely. So we're thrilled to be here, and we're also thrilled to have as our special guest today from Stallone Cigars, Mr. Tony Barrios. Tony, welcome.
Thank you very much, guys, for having me here at the show.
Thank you for being here. We are already smoking your cigars and already really enjoying them. This is the broadleaf. This is the
Sign of broadleaf.
Yeah. This is a wonderful cigar. It's very full bodied. It's got that that strength that you expect from that broadleaf, but it also has broadleaf also gives you those really interesting little undertone flavors too.
It's very earthy with like the lightest tint of like the fermented hay and campfire kind of thing.
Are you smoking the same one?
I am.
All right, so
I'm enjoying it.
I'm enjoying this immensely, and so we want to talk a lot about Stallone Cigars today because this is a really exciting, an interesting boutique brand that I don't think as many people know about as should. So we got Tony on the program today, and we'll try to spread the word as best we can. Talk about what the what the inspiration is behind the brand, how many cigars are in the line, what your passions are, both about cigars and about some other things. So we'll get into all of that. And of course, we want to talk up Vinyl Draft as much as possible because we just absolutely love this place. I walked in today and was greeted immediately by a stack of like new vinyl albums, which, I'm from the generation where we loved going to the record store and leafing through the bins. And so I still get a charge out of that. I was like, oh, you have this. Oh, you have this. Oh, you have this. And so he put some on the hi-fi for us.
Yeah, there's about 700 of them more in the other room.
This just makes something about that makes me happy. The thought of spending an afternoon here with just like a bottle of really nice whiskey, a couple of really good cigars with some great music,
classic
with that warm sound from vinyl. You gotta love it.
We're a simple people. And I tell everybody, Vinyl Draft, it just means records and beer.
Yeah, I love it. And we'll talk beer today, too. We're going to be trying some very interesting brews from Webster, Texas, and Saloon Brewing. You're familiar with Saloon
Door. Right up the road from here.
We'll be trying their American Pilsner called Krispyyy. And Krispy is spelled with a K and ends with 3 Y's. And so does the word boy, ends with 3 Y's. And as if that wasn't confusing enough, the illustration, you'll see this when we get to the can, it looks like Billy Ray Cyrus on the can.
That's awesome.
I don't know what that's all about, but we'll get to that. And Saloon Door makes some really, really good beer. From Iceland, an interesting beer today from the Einstock Beer Company. We'll be trying their Icelandic Wee Heavy. This is a beer you gave me last week, and it has taken every bit of self-control that I have not to have consumed that during the week since you gave it to me a week ago.
So to
actually save it to bring to the show.
This one is not a surprise for me. I bought a 6-pack of that at D&Q Mart. Now, D&Q Mart it looks like a little convenience store in the Montrose area. It's right off of Richmond, but it is like a beer wonderland.
Yes, it is.
Like you will find beers there that you cannot find at the bigger stores, any of the Total Wines or any of the Specs. You will find, like this guy is outrageous with his selection.
Well, I'm excited to try this because I have not had it, and a Wee Heavy is such an interesting style of beer to begin with. So looking forward to that.
Also known as a Scotch ale.
And then this one is just for you, Ian. Well, the rest of us are going to enjoy it too.
I like that that's not the heaviest beer he brought.
From Anaheim, California, and the very much revered Bottle Logic Brewing.
Yeah.
We'll be trying their beer called Flesh to Stone. It is a peach barley wine.
That's I love barley wine.
Yeah. So
you had me a barley wine.
So we have that to look forward to. Also, talk a lot about what's going on in the world of cigars and whiskey and speaking of whiskey. I actually brought in a rum today that we were going to do on the show, but I put it back in my bag because Doug offered to allow us to open and sample a bottle he has here at Vinyl Draft. And this is a very special bottle of Garrison Brothers. Doug, what can you tell us about this?
So this is the 2024 version of Lady Bird. They put one out last year. I scoured the earth and never was able to find one.
Yeah.
And just happened to be, my girlfriend and I were in Fredericksburg, and I noticed that the bottle release was taking place the day we were leaving.
Oh, you just happened to be there.
It may have come across my radar, but
this just happens to be happening when I planned our vacation on.
Don't harsh his mellow. Don't mess up his planning.
Look,
here.
I will say when we got there, and I took a picture of it when we got there. We're driving back home and we just veer off to High, and I'm checking. I'm 1.3 miles away, and it's a dead stop, and it took 100 minutes to go that 1.3 miles
because people waiting to get there.
People were waiting to get that bottle. And
this is Fredericksburg, mind you. This is not like downtown Dallas or Atlanta.
Yeah, well, it's actually High. I mean, it's Hawaii, it's High, Texas. It's just on the way.
Yeah.
And most patient woman in North America. That's
the most amazing thing, because you'd think mathematically when you're going 0.75 miles per hour, it would take you about 100 minutes.
It just barely moving. And about every 20 minutes, I would look at her and go, "Listen, if you want to go," and she'd go, "No, this is fine. This is fine." So
we're spending quality time together.
Yes, and so we were able to get a couple of bottles, and I'm happy to share this with you.
Well, we're excited to try it. Obviously, I've never had anything from Garrison Brothers that wasn't just outstanding.
Yeah, they're so good. Did you guys happen to drive by? What's the big German brewery out there? Looks like a castle.
No, but we saw it. Our first stop was at Andalusia. So we went to Andalusia, and we stayed there for a little bit, and then we just kind of, I couldn't make it into just a Doug trip. You know what I mean?
Why am I blanking on the name of that brewery? It's not Stetsy. It's I've been there a couple times.
Klaus,
but anyway, it's beautiful. You're out in the middle of the country, like nothing, castle.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, I would love to go back. I had never been before.
Kind of like in California when you're driving, it's just like ocean on one side, hills on the other. All of a sudden, Hearst Castle. It's like out of nowhere. It's pretty cool. Well, we're looking forward to trying that, and of course, we're going to try our beverage of mystery, this is something that we do. Excuse me, we do, gentlemen, where one of us will bring in a beverage. Sometimes it's a beer, sometimes a wine, sometimes a seltzer or a cider. Could be almost anything. And the only person who knows what it is the person who brought it. Today, that person is me. I brought in today's beverage of mystery. So if you want to grab your beverage of mystery, and Terry, if we could have maybe the official beverage of mystery intro opening.
The beverage of mystery.
It always tastes better after that, I've noticed.
The beverage of mystery.
Yeah.
Otherwise known as, is that a beverage in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me?
I may have neglected to tell Tony that drinking was involved in this.
Oh, you did. Tony, I hope we're not...
we're not twisting your arm too hard, are we?
No, I'm not bad at it.
Okay. Fair enough. So the beverage of mystery, give it a sniff. Give it a taste.
It has like no nose.
Yeah.
Are you getting anything?
Like just a little
bit of a beer smell.
Yeah, a little beer smell. That's exactly what I was going to sell. Just a little beer smell.
Would you say a little fruit?
Little sweetness, fruit.
Sweetness, yeah. All right, let's see what we got.
Okay, this is a fruited lager or something like that. What is it? Could be like watermelon, maybe?
I'm not
No, we had the watermelon the other day, and that was good.
That one was good.
Yeah, this is not heavily fruited though. It really just drinks more like a Pilsner to me.
Really does.
It's clean. It's really clean.
But there's a little something in there.
The mouthfeel, it's got just a little thickness on it, just that.
Are you ready for the big reveal?
The big reveal. Oh, yeah, look at the
Beer tasting beer from
Big
beer.
reveal, also known as. Is that a beverage can in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me? But I don't have it in the pocket today. I have it in my bag, and we are drinking from Back Pew Brewing their Hyper Light 95 calorie beer.
Oh.
So
take that,
So it is just
Michelob
straight
Ultra.
up.
yeah, that's exactly
Really?
right.
I
That's
mean,
exactly
wow.
right.
Just take that.
Kudos to Back Pew because I think this is actually
The fact
tasty.
that we're trying to figure out what all the flavors are in it lets
Right.
you know that it does have flavor.
When was the last time you tried to figure out what the flavors were in Michelob Ultra? You know, it's like, well, I think there's water, and
I'm going to be honest.
Little gas.
yeah,
If all there is to drink is Michelob Ultra, I'm probably going to have iced tea.
yeah. Well, there may actually be more alcohol in the iced tea than there is in Michelob Ultra.
But I see a lot of people drinking Michelob Ultra, and they just need to be introduced to this.
This is-
Really.
Well, and that's why I wanted to try it this way because if we tasted it not knowing that it was supposed to be
Yeah.
a super low calorie
Yeah.
type light beer, and then thought it was a decent beer, right there, that smacks Michelob Ultra like right in the face, I think. Because Michelob Ultra is right around the same amount of calories, and this is, does it say what the ABV is on that? I mean, it's clearly going to be fairly low.
4.2.
4.2 might be higher than
I think it's higher than Michelob
than
Ultra.
Michelob Ultra, yeah, and definitely more delicious.
2.6 carbs, 4.2 alcohol by volume, 95 calories.
So hats off to the guys at Back Pew. That is a Houston area brewery for coming up with
they make some pretty good beers there.
They really do.
We
Yeah,
can get them
they
on
really
the
do.
show.
But I feel like that's really a great option for that. I mean, there's no excuse, Michelob Ultra.
Well, summer is definitely
it can be
upon
better.
us. Summer is definitely
sure.
upon us. And everyone in the world, except for Ian, likes to drink a little bit lighter beers during the summer, especially if you're.
I don't see the correlation, to be honest with you.
I know you don't. I know. I mean, this is the guy that'll drink barley wine in a tube floating down the river.
That's true. I have done
and
before.
you have done that before, yes. So,
Kind of like you.
yeah, so-
I don't see why you have to drink.
I'll say this: I'm glad that you didn't go into what it was, because had you said this is something slightly comparable to a Michelob Ultra,
Right.
I would have gone into it all judgy.
Absolutely.
and had a
Absolutely.
preconceived, and I really didn't. It was,
And it's actually one of the reasons for the beverage of mystery, because we have a tendency, for example, to be a little prejudiced against the hard seltzers. Most of them we feel like have just this aftertaste, the sweetener, artificial aftertaste that just
so bad.
isn't that good. So every now and then one of us will bring one in, and we don't prejudice the room by letting everybody know that it is in fact a hard seltzer. And we had the Topo Chico hard seltzer on a few weeks back, and it was actually quite good.
I think Topo Chico, there's certain flavors of it that are really good. Not all of them, I think, are 100%. But yeah, Topo Chico hits it
But
pretty
yeah,
well.
that's the whole reason for the beverage of mystery. We're just about out of time for this segment, but Ian, I wanted to let everybody know that we will be doing drinking news on today's program, and I will give you our drinking news teaser headline before we go to break, and that is to give you one of my favorite quotes from one of my favorite movies of all time. I'm quoting Emilio Estevez in St. Elmo's Fire. I'm obsessed. Thank you very much. That is your teaser headline for today's drinking news, which we will get to later on in the program. We also have a lot to talk about, including Stallone Cigars. We'll be back to do that next. It's Smoking and Toasted. And welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasted. Our program is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. We've already had some craft beers. We have some fine spirits on the way, and we are smoking some really absolutely wonderful hand-rolled cigars here. What I'm smoking, and you are as well, is from Stallone Cigars. And I mentioned this is a boutique brand that not everybody has heard of yet, and we want to change that for as many people as we can because of how good these cigars are. And so the owner, the proprietor of Stallone Cigars is with us, Mr. Tony Barrios. Welcome to the show again, Tony.
Thank you.
First of all, before we get started on the cigars, I understand a lot of the all of your bands have the stallion or the horse on them,
Yes.
and a lot of your cigars have horse and stable related names
Yes.
to them, and that's not by accident because you actually train cutting horses, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, cutting horses is my passion, my hobby. And I've been riding horses since, very young age with my grandpa, which I started tobacco with him. I'm third generation tobacco growers. So kind of horses and tobacco work together, and I kind of fusion them into the Saloon brand.
So it really gives your brand a sort of a unique vibe to it, a unique look to the packaging, and kind of stands out that way. But I just want to point out, raising horses is one thing, but cutting horses, that's a whole other deal.
It's a whole world.
If anyone has watched Yellowstone, and you can see Taylor Sheridan, who's the guy who is the man behind the whole series, actually plays a role in Yellowstone, and he's the guy that's kind of the expert on cutting horses. And watching him ride and watching the horses do all the things that you train them to do, to me, it was just mind-boggling. Like, how do you get a horse to be that responsive? How much training does it take with a horse before you get it to be a really good cutting horse?
I mean, we have a big event that's called Akyreyri. That is when the horse are 3-year-olds, almost becoming 4 every December. So a horse needs to be trained 2 years to be able to show the Akyreyri. But that doesn't mean they're completely ready, right?
Right.
So they're kind of baby at that stage. But we have a big event here in Fort Worth, which is, which are the best babies, right?
Right.
But a
the
horse
best of the next crop
matures and can move by itself when they are like from 5, 6, 7-ish, it depends on the show experience they have.
So it strikes me there's a lot of time and patience involved, and that translates pretty well to the cigar industry as well. First of all, after working with the horses and stuff, what made you think, I want to start my own cigar brand? I want to have my own cigars. Where did that dream come from?
Well, it was back when I was a kid. One of the last things my grandpa said to me before he passed away, he dreamed me having a cigar brand.
Really?
Yeah.
So I wish my grandpa had done that. Wow.
And because he was involved in the cigarette business, planting tobacco for a cigarette business, which I did for 25 years as well. But I have a couple small factories of cigars in Venezuela, my country. And then I decided to found, Stallone Cigar back in 2014 in Nicaragua. Is where I took serious my grandpa awards and make my dream, and his come to reality.
That is fantastic.
I know you probably get asked this all the time. Is there any connection between Stallone Cigars and Sylvester Stallone?
No.
Okay.
That's why when I came with the brand, it used to say Stallone in Nicaragua, and then I changed Stallone to Tony Barrios to avoid confusions. Right.
Well,
Stallone is just stallion.
It's a stallion.
Yes,
Italian.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I just want to make sure, because a lot of people will, kind of jump to that conclusion, especially because Sylvester Stallone is such a big fan of cigars to begin with. So,
and he's a great horse rider as well.
I didn't know that, but that makes sense.
He used to play polo professionally.
And I just want to say, if there's anybody who's not watching Tulsa King with Sylvester Stallone, you got to check it out because it's amazing. Free plug there, Sly. All right, we've got to take a break. We will be right back. We'll do some more tasting. We want to talk some more about Stallone Cigars and how you got this interesting a blend to come together for this cigar. We'll be right back. It's Smoking and Toast. Welcome back, my friends. That familiar sound is still, by the way, even when we're on location, the Smoking and Toasting sound effects are all organic. We spare every expense when it comes to
sacrifice
sound
a
effects.
beer every single time
That's
we make
right.
that sound.
And we love that sound. Welcome back. It's program number 385 of Smoking and Toasting. We're all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. We're going to get into a little more craft beer in a moment. But first, it's time for one of the newer features on the program, and one that we enjoy quite a bit. It is time.
And now it's time for another Smoking and Toasting drinking fact.
So the drinking fact is just, Terry said during the break, he said, just give me the finger when you're ready. And so I gave him the finger. Smoking and Toasting's drinking fact is where we bring you a fact that is true. It's about drinking on some level. And I found a whole bunch of these. And when these run out, it would probably be the end of the feature. I have no idea where I can find more of these. But here's your drinking fact for today. Any wine drinkers in the house? You like wine, right?
Yeah, occasionally, yeah.
You guys drink wine occasionally? Yeah. There is such a thing as a buttload of wine.
A buttload. I think I may have heard this before.
Butt, B-U-T-T, is a medieval unit of measurement for wine. A buttload of wine is 129 gallons.
Hey, Beavis.
There is.
That is a buttload even by today's usage of the word.
100% right. Yeah. Think how many jugs that is.
That's a lot of boxes.
Oh, yeah.
That's a lot of boxes of Franzia.
Yeah, that's right.
So the next time somebody tells me they drank a buttload of wine, I
You'll
can be
know
like,
exactly
did you
how
though?
much that was.
Did
Yeah.
you really?
Really?
Yeah.
'Cause, how many gallons was that? 129?
129, yeah.
129
Wow.
gallons.
That is officially a buttload of wine. I like that one. We are on location in beautiful Kemah, Texas. And we are at Vinyl Draft, an amazing steakhouse and restaurant downstairs, a wonderful, very relaxing cigar lounge upstairs. That's where we're gathered to do today's Smoking and Toasting.
This is a beautiful area to visit, by the way, if you're in the Houston area. It's in between Houston and Galveston. Mm-hmm. And it's right on the water. There's an amusement park. And tons of things to.
And down on the boardwalk, they have live music.
Yeah, tons of things to entertain yourself with. And when you're done with that and you want fantastic food, you walk 2 blocks, right?
4.
Maybe 4 blocks. Not city blocks either, but you walk.
Yeah.
You walk just down the water a little bit. Down the street, not really down the water, but and you're right here at Vinyl Giraffe. It's fantastic.
It's really and worth the trip out if you're in the city too. Just come out, dedicate an evening to enjoying some.
Or
great
depending
food
on
and
your
cigars.
inclination, you can drop the kids off at the amusement park. You come down here to the cigar lounge.
That happens more often than you would think.
Not surprised. Our guest is Tony Barrios from Stallone Cigars. Tony, you mentioned you started your interest in the cigar business in Venezuela, but you wound up relocating things to Nicaragua.
Yes.
What was it that sent you to Nicaragua to like really build out the brand?
I always liked so much in Nicaraguan tobacco. Mm-hmm. I always, thought, before the Nicaraguan boom of cigars, right? Mm-hmm. I always thought that Nicaraguan tobacco quality was something else. So I was chasing for that particular kind of volcanic soil flavors.
Mm-hmm. I think I'm to the point where, I don't want to sound like a heretic here, but I would almost rather have a cigar made with Nicaraguan tobacco than Cuban. And I know that seems crazy, but not every Cuban, I don't have Cubans all the time, but I would say out of the past, 10 that I've had, maybe 3 or 4 of them were outstanding. The last 10 Nicaraguan cigars I've had, way more than 3 or 4 of them were outstanding. And that's just the way that, maybe it's the way that my palate is put together. I don't know. What do you think?
Anymore, I think if you're comparing like the old knowledge is that Cubans make the best cigars. And at one point in time, that was probably true. But much like you can only get good beer in Germany, it's just not true anymore.
Right.
Like, Germans are chasing American styles now. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I think it's awesome, and they're trying different styles because of that. But same thing with Cuban cigars. Cubans make great cigars, but they also make bad cigars, just like everybody else. Like every other place, you can find bad cigars pretty much everywhere you go. But when you get a real good Cuban, it has a very specific flavor, and you don't get that flavor everywhere else. Now, if that flavor is not to your palate, then you're probably going to like Nicaraguan or Honduran or Dominican better. I'm particularly partial. I love the Nicaraguan tobaccos. I love that the big pepper blast, the chocolate and coffee notes in there, the volcanic soil that you're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely.
That deep, rich earthiness in it. It's a beautiful thing.
So are your cigars currently made in Nicaragua?
Yes, in Esteli.
In Esteli, and do you have a particular factory that you use?
We have the factory in Esteli, on the heart of Esteli, 2 blocks away from Oliva factory, in the same street.
Yep.
And we have there even the boxes factory. So we do everything there. We ferment our own tobacco.
That is so cool.
We handle pretty much whole process.
That's really cool because a lot of emerging brands will use a lot of other blenders and factories to put their cigars together. So the fact that you're doing this on your own, that's a big deal. It's a big commitment. How difficult has it been to roll out a boutique brand in today's cigar business? Is it the type of thing where people are kind of waiting to try the latest new thing, or is it tough sort of breaking through the noise and getting shelf space in cigar shops and things like that?
It's very, very hard. Actually, I started this company back in 2014, and I was very skeptical to start in the U.S. because I know here there's too many brands, too many competition. But at the end of the road, 80% of the premium cigars are sold in this country only. So as much as I can reach in Europe, South America, the rest of the world, that's only 20% of the market. So I decided back in 2020 to start here in the U.S. In the middle of the pandemic. I didn't decide in 2020. I decided back in 2018 that I was going to start in 2020.
Right.
So I prepared everything, cigar aficionado, all the marketing, all the. So then the pandemic hit, and I didn't have a way to back up. So I just keep going, and actually was a good year to start because it happens that many smokers that were not sick, they smoke more in their house. So they want to try different
cigar
things.
Cigar consumption was definitely up during the pandemic.
Definitely up. So
well, you couldn't go and do a lot of the things that you might normally go and do. So I think there was a lot more sitting on the back porch having a cigar time.
Exactly.
I did a lot of that. Yes.
Yeah. It's just it only makes sense, I guess. And it almost created a sort of a second boom, a little mini boom. Back in the 90s was the first cigar boom, and then this was almost like a little boomlet. And what's interesting about booms, and we've talked about this, about the 90s cigar boom, is not so much the boom itself, but where things level off after the boom.
Yeah.
And I think it was the same thing with the boomlet. You saw, some new brands be introduced. You saw people maybe consuming more, and it didn't necessarily stay at that level. But when it leveled off at a higher place than where it had been in terms of cigar imports to the U.S. and so on. And they're still growing, maybe not at an astronomical rate, but they're still up even through the first couple of quarters of 2024 from everything that I've
you get a lot of those. You get a lot of those news bulletins, like the growth of cigars slowed down, that kind of stuff. But the truth is, if it's slowed down, it's still growing, and that's still positive. That's still going in the right direction.
It absolutely is.
I got turned on to these over from Cheryl over at Cigar Town.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I was over there one day, and she's like, "Have you tried one of these?" I said, "I have not." And I
She
was
was
on my way out, so I
a
grabbed
supporter of our brand since day one.
Yeah.
Until the date, she's always carry our cigars in a monthly basis. She's always ordered.
I love that when you go to a cigar shop, you have a proprietor like that who goes, "Okay, I see what you like. You're probably going to like this. Try it." I am one of those people that likes to try different stuff all the time. I don't want the same cigar every single day in, day out. But I do have my go-tos, and I absolutely, since that day, I picked up 2 different Stallones that day and loved both of them, and picked up a few every single time I've gone in there since.
How many different cigars are in your lineup? How many different cigars?
We have the core line, which is named the Cowboy Series, that consists of 6 different type of blends.
Different wrappers.
Different wrappers from all the way from Connecticut, Barbados, all the way on to broadleaf. With different strain profile, different blends. Every blend was made by me, by myself, hitting that particular spot of that particular smoker that likes that wrapper.
That style, yeah.
Outside the Cowboy series, we have the Pony, which is a Sumatra short gordo, and then we have released some limited edition like the Nino. Now we're coming up with something new this year that's going to be called Bucephalus. It's 6.5 by 52, strong cigar, commemorative to Alexander the Great Horse. So it's going to be named the War Horse series,
Nice.
and we're gonna have the Alexander Great Horse, which is Bucephalus, the first installment. Then we're gonna have Nelson, which was one of the favorite George Washington war horses.
Oh, cool.
And so we go on. But talking about the existing, besides the Pony, we have the Mustangs. The Mustangs are kind of budget cigar, but long filler, premium, little low in strength, but full of that particular kind of Cuban-esque sweetness going through. So it can be enjoyed by a seasoned smoker or by, and they're like $5.5 to $6 range.
Nice.
One of the things that always surprises guys like us who have been smoking for a while and have really developed what our favorite styles are is when we read and are told that Connecticut wrapper, milder cigars sometimes are the bigger sellers. Is that true for your line as well?
Yeah, for every brand, 60 to 65% of the cigars sold in the U.S. are Connecticut wrappers.
Why do you think that is? Is it just because they're more accessible and people who are just getting started try them? And I enjoy a good Connecticut wrapper cigar every once in a while, a lighter cigar.
There's a bunch of reasons, right?
Yeah.
But to name just a few, to be quick, number one, Connecticut has been always, a U.S. favorite. Number two, anyone can smoke it, a new smoker, a seasoned smoker. And then number three, not everybody is chasing those strong, powerful cigar, but that's a misleading because I can blend a Connecticut cigar to be very strong.
Right.
But the popular Connecticut blend is a milder blend.
Right. And when you look at something like a Macanudo, and Macanudo does make stronger cigars, but they're more known, for their more mellow blends.
And mild and some touching medium and
right. But there are some amazingly good, even for a smoker like myself, I'm kind of a medium full guy is where I sort of land on the spectrum. But even for myself, there's been some Connecticut's that I have really enjoyed. And I haven't tried yours yet, but I'll look forward to doing it.
That's what I'm smoking.
Is that what you're smoking
right now?
All right,
because when I went and got yours, I got a Connecticut, but the reason I got it, and it's another, for why would somebody smoke that, I pre-gamed. This is my third one today. and it was the perfect, I thought, you know what, I've had two. I'm going to go a little lighter on this one.
Perfect
because we've got something, to visit next after this. And I thought, you know what, I'll take something a little bit easier.
The presentation, the bands on these cigars are beautiful.
Absolutely gorgeous, yeah.
And I was noticing the detail, too. You have a secondary band on here that tells you the name of the cigar and
the name of the wrapper.
And the wrapper. Yeah. But I love how, like, this shield that your stallion is in comes down to a point, and then the band underneath it has just that little point cut out of it, so it fits perfectly in that detail. That's very cool. Yeah. Like, I love those little things.
I'm a kind of obsessive guy when we're talking about details in my products, and that shows even in the blends. I'm very, very picky. When I was blending it, actually it took me a couple years to make the blends perfect for the U.S. market. Because when you blend a cigar in Nicaragua, different, humidity, different temperature, it's going to taste completely different
than how it's going to taste here. Fascinating.
So what I was doing is blending cigars over there and bringing here and smoking a different part with an hygrometer and a temperature, and I wrote it down all the changes so I can retouch the blend to have what I want the American market to feel here.
Okay, I definitely want to talk more about this. We have to do a little beer tasting here before our segment.
Do we have to?
We have to because it's Krispyyy Boy, and
this smells like classic beer with a little sweetness on top.
a little more intense flavor to it than the beverage of mystery that we had, but still definitely in that Pilsner.
Coming in the same alcohol, 4.2 by volume. This is Krispyyy with 3 Y's, Boyyy, and I love this picture on here. This is
so definitely show that to the
just
camera.
fantastic.
From Saloon Brewing, they are a Webster, Texas brewery. So they're in our neck of the woods here, I guess
Is
you
that
could
like
say.
10 minutes from here, I think?
Yeah.
And
And it's funny because Jason texted me earlier this morning and said he has something new that he wants me to try, and he's got a couple of things. I bet you this is one of them.
Oh, nice.
well, it's really good, and you got to dig those
Saloon
shades.
Door
man.
is like, in my mind, Saloon Door is known really well for their tasty AF.
Yeah.
They have all the very big beers, like very outrageous
And
stouts.
don't they have that peanut butter beer that's just so outrageous, that's so good?
Yeah, it's called Peanut Butter AF, I believe.
I believe it is. All right, we have to go to break. We will be right back. We're going to talk cigars more and do a little more tasting. It's Smoking and Toasting. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting, our program all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. And I was thinking that you could probably tell something about how long of a break we took in between the segments by how much more of my cigar is smoked now.
Right.
I am really enjoying this, and I want to get back to it in just a minute. But before we move further, I just want to talk a little bit more about this Saloon Door Crispy Boy. This is actually a really good lager.
It is quite good. Mine is finished already.
It's very tasty. It's got a nice body to it, a little bit of that crispness and bite that you want a good lager to have, and another really good summer beer that I think I could feel justified in describing it as business in the front, party in the back.
Right. Well,
you know?
it's got a guy on here that looks somewhere between Joe Dirt, what would you say, Dog the Bounty Hunter, and Billy Ray Cyrus.
Yeah.
On there,
It's
wearing his pit vipers. Of
Yeah,
course.
you gotta love it. I think it's just absolutely fantastic. All right, we have another beer to try. It's a Wee Heavy, which is a Scottish ale. Ian's going to pour that. And while he does, I wanted to go back and ask you, Tony, about the process of becoming a cigar blender. How did you learn what to do? Is there a place you can go and apprentice or study that? Is it all trial and error?
Yeah.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's not. There's no schools to learn how to blend it. Obviously, I get many lessons from very experienced blenders. Back in the days.
Right.
But at the end of the road, it's more of your personal taste and knowing tobacco, right?
I just find this so fascinating, and I'm still angry with my high school guidance counselor that this was not presented as a potential option when I was, trying to figure out
what you'd be
careers
good
and
at?
stuff.
Making cigars.
Yeah. But I just love the whole concept. To me, the trial and error would be so much fun. Just all right, is this a little closer to what we want? Okay, what should we change to keep going in the direction we want?
Yeah.
And it really is all about the blend, right?
Yeah, I mean, the basic rule, if you want to blend a cigar, is you have to know tobacco. When I say no tobacco, you have to try all the varieties of tobacco that you can find, even if you're not willing to work with them.
Right.
That develops your palate, right? So in the second, you might love 3 kind of leaves, but when you put them together, they might not
work together. Yeah.
So you got to know it like that intimate knowledge, like an actual master chef knows their spices and herbs. You got to know the ingredients. You got to know it.
Exactly.
Like you got to be able to pick that out on your palate and everything.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a good comparison.
I just think it's fascinating, and we know that the wrapper is going to have the biggest amount of effect on what the flavor is. But between the binder and the filler, does the binder affect more of the overall flavor than the filler, or is the filler kind of second most important in that blend?
I mean, everything is important, but I'm a strong believer the binder is kind of the volume knob to bring those fillers alive, right? So
I love that.
A lot of people put the binder, just to, construct a cigar. They don't pay much attention to a binder. They pay more attention to the fillers and the wrapper. But for me, the binder plays a really important role because several things. The burning, is conducted by the binder and has to be a similar range of burning with the wrapper. to be able to comment,
And we've talked about this, about how all of us are pretty fond of the flavors of Nicaraguan tobacco. But I've kind of got a pet theory that the next big sort of, I don't know if explosion is the right word, but the next big advancement in terms of cigars, especially here in the United States, is I think we're going to see a rise in popularity for Honduran tobacco.
Yes.
I think it's kind of underappreciated, maybe it would be a good way to put it. Not that there aren't some great Honduran blends out there, but what is if you were to describe the difference between the flavors of Nicaraguan tobacco and Honduran tobacco? I mean, these countries are right by each other.
There's got to be a little gray area because they share the border.
What is the difference?
The difference basically, from 1 to 10, like 3 steps down in strength and in body. So with Honduran tobacco, you can have a very nice blend, but it's not going to be as strong or as peppery
Right.
or earthy as Nicaragua. So that blend, that tobaccos work perfectly for people that's not willing to that have that fullness.
They don't want a full-bodied cigar.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what
I think I said also while we're on break, this I'm getting towards the last third of the cigar. Well, I'm in the last third of the cigar. This is picking up somewhere in the last 10 minutes or so. It's picking up this very nutty kind of undertone. It's not really descriptive. I can't say it's this or that, but it's a very nutty undertone. It's incredibly good. It's just this development that's popped up.
Everything I've gotten from him, and I have the whole line, they're all so complex and they all evolve as you smoke them.
Love
Well, and to me,
everything
that's what I'm looking for in a cigar. Whether I'm smoking, medium bodied, full on, or even a milder cigar, I'm looking for complexity. And one of my complaints about a lot of milder cigars is they may have pleasant flavors, but not as much complexity. Yeah, and so to me, this is just right in the sweet spot for me when you have this kind of complexity and you get the changes. And it's one thing, I say this to people all the time. They're like, well, how can you tell the different flavors and stuff in the cigar? And I always say, if you're trying to train your palate to recognize flavors, whether it's cigars or whether it's spirits or wine, what you should do is you should read or listen to someone who has reviewed that. And they say, I'm picking up notes of earth and leather and a nuttiness. And then when you smoke that cigar, see then if you can identify those same things.
For sure, you're going to pick different things because every palate is different.
Right, absolutely. And also, cigars are going to vary. Even cigars, the same blend, the same line are going to vary. One stick might have more of one thing than another one does of the same kind.
I have a blending question because this has always fascinated me. Like, for instance, you have this broadleaf line. I assume you're going to put this out for years to come, right?
Yep.
But every time you grow tobacco, there's going to be little differences in it due to
the tobacco is definitely like wine.
Due to the humidity, the water that's
soil.
available that year, the soil, the sun that's available that year, all that stuff. And it's amazing to me how you can come up and dial in that same blend when the ingredients are sometimes shifting on you as well.
Keeping consistency,
Yeah, that's got to be the hardest part, I would guess.
Okay, that I've been able to achieve the consistency in my blends because I have 5-year worth of tobacco ahead, right? And all my cigars are aged from minimum 12 months to 14 months in the aging room after roll and after packing and ship. So to be able to make that spot, I sort the tobaccos from all the bales that I have aging, and I sit down. My guys sit down and choose exactly and open every bale, try the leaf by itself to see if that particular leaves are exactly in the spot they should be for that blend.
Wow.
So that we have a lot of bales always in stock because from one bale to another bale can change a little bit.
Right.
Right in the same farm, there's no it's going to taste different from one point to another.
Right. All right. We got to wrap up this segment. We haven't tasted our beer yet, so we'll hold on to that for the next segment. And this is the end of our first hour. So thank you for getting through the first hour with us here on Smoking and Toasting. We are on location at Vinyl Draft in Kemah, Texas, and it's a wonderful place to be. Doug and Tony are our guests. We'll be back with more. We'll talk more about cigars, and we'll try this Scottish ale from Einstock from Iceland next. It's Smoking and Toasting. Welcome back to Smoking and Toasting. It's hour 2 of show number 386. My name is Cruz. My erstwhile co-host is Ian Barry.
That guy's crazy.
On the Wheels of Steel, on the portable DJ unit, is Terry Michaels, and Adam in the Sky is our ultimate producer of the show. We're on location in Kemah, Texas, at Vinyl Draft, upstairs from a wonderful restaurant that you really must come and try, and then talk them into letting you up here to smoke a cigar after.
There you go.
That's it.
I'm gonna push over.
Absolutely what. I wanted to taste this beer because we got into such interesting stuff on cigars last segment. We forgot to taste the beer, and as Ian was saying, if you forget to taste the beer, you know you got a good guess going on, because we don't usually forget to taste the beer.
This Wee Heavy I picked up from D&Q Mart, like I stated earlier in the show, and it looked so interesting. I've never tried anything from this brewery
They're from Iceland.
And it's interesting because there's a Viking on there. It says Einstock, and it says Wee Heavy, and then up at the top it says Scottish ale brewed with Angelica root and smoked barley. Now, how do I turn that down when I walk by it? Right?
Yeah, right.
The smoked barley comes through on the first sip.
It's so good. And it goes so well with cigars.
It really does. I was about to say
It
that.
does great with this.
Yeah. They form really well. Viking history in Scotland goes back more than 1,000 years. We've crafted our Wee Heavy in the spirit of that colorful folklore and brewed it with smoked barley and spiced with Angelica root, a fabled herb ancient Vikings used as currency. Surrender your taste buds. They have no choice but to be conquered.
I have been to Iceland. It is a fascinating country. I've never been to Scotland, mostly because I'm worried that with all of the distilleries that they have there, that I won't make it back to the airport. So
we'll make it back out.
So, hey, where is Chris? He's still in Scotland somewhere, but he's having a great time.
Yeah.
So
he lives at Ardbeg now.
Yeah. I will say, though, Iceland's a fascinating country. This brewery, I don't believe, was in existence when I was there, or I would have wanted to visit it. But they're a fascinating country, and I'm a little surprised, I guess, that because their cuisine to me is fairly bland. But I'm a little surprised at how good and how flavorful this beer is coming from Iceland. Yeah, and as you mentioned, just perfection with this cigar.
First off, it's a wonderful Wee Heavy in its own right. The smoked barley does wonders for it. It brings in just a touch of chocolatiness to it as well. And then Angelica root, I don't know what Angelica root tastes like, but there's a little something in this that kind of kicks it to 11. Mm-hmm. And it's incredibly interesting, and you get it on the nose as well.
Complex.
And it gives me a little bit of chocolatey sweetness to the cigar when I go back to the Stallone. This is, I got to tell you, I'm really enjoying this cigar, and this is now going to be a regular in my humidor. What is this one retail for?
That cigar is $9 Robusto and $10 the total.
I got to tell you, that is a great price for the quality of this cigar. It really is. You know, I used to say that I like to spend in the neighborhood of $8 for a cigar. That I've definitely bumped that to 10 because most of my favorites are in that range now, and this is absolutely going to join the ranks.
Well, if I was to put this on price to quality right now, this is clocking at least a 6 or 6.5.
Our price to quality scale that we use when we talk about cigars on the show, it's a scale of 1 to 10, but a 5 means that you got exactly what you paid for. Mm-hmm. So, for example, we might smoke an inexpensive cigar, and it might not be as good as this one, but because it was $5, it might get a 6 or a 7 or something like that on the scale. By the same token, we might smoke a $25 Padron, and it might be excellent, but is it really twice as good as an $11 or $12 cigar that we might. So it might score a little bit lower, or it might not. It just really depends how much we enjoyed the whole smoking experience. But I agree with you, no less than a 6.
Yeah, I mean this
is
is punching above its price point, and I was surprised when you said $9 and $10 actually.
Yeah, I really was expecting 12 to 15.
One of the
Don't get any ideas.
The central focus of my brand, the main focus when I create my brand is how to give the customer more value than they're paying for. So that's the reason why. This cigar can be in the $12, $15 range, but I don't want them to be there because I want the customers to have an experience higher than the money they're paying for.
Yeah, you're 100%
always over deliver. Yeah.
And
I thought as a customer.
Can I just how I discovered his cigar? I always like to tell the story of how I discovered these cigars and met Tony.
And while you're doing that, by the way, I just want to point out that when you use that little cigar poker for the last third of your cigar and you kind of move it as you speak, it adds a certain gravity to what you're saying.
So that's what I was going for.
Okay,
that's the only
good,
reason I did it.
Good. That's what I thought.
Yeah, that's
kind of like the long stem on the pipe, Yeah.
Well, no, and we've talked about this before. I'm a huge Bob Dylan fan. Mm-hmm. And when they opened up the Bob Dylan Center in Tulsa, I flew up there to go visit the center, and I, got in there and
wait a second. You went for the Bob Dylan Center?
I did, yeah.
And not for the big Oral Roberts statue?
Sorry. Missed opportunities. My life is full of them.
I'm sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt.
No. But after leaving the Dylan Center, which is fantastic, I was getting ready to call an Uber, and I thought, well, let me see if there's a cigar lounge anywhere near me. And I got on Google, and I searched, cigar lounge near me, and then when the little pin dropped, I was like, wait, what? And I turned around and it's like, there's one right here. And it really was. And it's a classic cigar in Tulsa. Fabulous place. Fantastic place. And I went in there and they have a great selection. I grabbed a couple of things, and I had seen these cigars. I had seen the marketing and some of the advertising. I'd been wanting to try it, and they had it. So I grabbed one of those, and that's what I decided to smoke when I was there. And I actually started calling people. That's the only time I've ever had a cigar where I thought, hang on, I've got to call people. And I was asking, have you had it? And very similar to what you guys were saying, I kept saying, this smokes so far above its price point. Had I spent $18 for that cigar, I would have been perfectly happy with what I got. And so I wound up buying a few more, and I posted about it. I took a picture of it and posted it and tagged the company. And about 4 or 5 days later, I got a notification for somebody from the company had reached out and thanked me for the kind words, and I guess they saw my Facebook page and said, by the way, we see that you own a cigar lounge. If you'd ever be interested in carrying our cigars, here's our information. And I said I would be very much interested, and then had a little communication back and forth, and maybe about a week or two later, somebody was like, Doug, there's somebody here to see you. And I said, okay. I went downstairs, and it was this guy. And he was
dropping by.
He just popped in. He was up in the Woodlands and made that insidious drive all the way from the Woodlands down to Kemah when traffic was not your friend. And that's sort of how it's turned into a great friendship that I value tremendously. And we just started talking on occasion, and it led to something really special for this place. But that was sort of how I stumbled upon this, and that was sort of the thing that I couldn't get over is the quality, from the construction to the complexity to the way it was. This was an amazing cigar, and it's right there with what you're saying as far as you don't typically find quality like this at that price point. I was just amazed by it.
Tony, we were talking about blending, and during the break you mentioned something about the number of tobaccos that you can put into one blend, and you said something I hadn't heard articulated before, but it made total sense to me, that it kind of tops out at 3 different styles of tobacco or countries. Tell me again what you said.
I was talking about the countries, because, you can have the same seed plant in a different country, they're going to taste very different. Right? Because it's about the soil and
the soil and the climate.
Right? So, in my opinion, just my opinion, I think the up to 3 countries make a great, perfect complex blend. I blend cigars in past with 4, 5, even up to 6 different countries, and I didn't get any good results because there's too much fight in flavors between the different soils.
Right. They're not working together. They're almost working against each other.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, when you do this, like, let's say you're going to put together a new cigar, add a new cigar to your line. Will you go down to the factory and spend some time there, blending different things, smoking those, seeing what they're like?
Yep.
And do you have a large suitcase that I could hide in and go with you?
No, I regularly take my time, go to the factory, and play with all the tobaccos that I have. Mm-hmm. If I don't have what I'm looking for,
that's grown-up play toys right there.
Here's what I think. I think we should start a company that specializes in vacations for cigar lovers, and it should be a blender's vacation. You get to go down, play with tobaccos, do blends. Wouldn't that be a cool thing? I would totally blast.
We're gonna put it together.
Okay.
Yeah, in January we're gonna have a trip.
Yeah.
And I invited all my, store friends owners, like many owners that are a friend of mine, and they invite the people, customers they want to go in, and we're actually going to put the people try to make their own blends with a couple rollers, right?
Cool.
So they can know how can they have to go back and forward,
right?
To
how
finish a product.
fascinatingly cool is
that just sounds like the coolest vacation ever. Yeah. You guys want to hike and climb a mountain? Go for it. I'm going to go blend.
You also mentioned a little terminology that I didn't know was different. You mentioned the difference between what puros means and cigar.
Yeah.
I didn't know there was a difference in what that actually meant.
So we knew that puro was all tobacco from one country.
Right.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. And the difference from puro and cigar, is the cigar is made out of at least 2 countries. Mm-hmm. So when you use at least one leaf from a different country, that's not a puro, that's a cigar, right? So, but I know in English the cigar word describes everything.
Right,
it's like
cigar is the overall.
In Spanish we say tobacco.
Right.
Give me a tobacco, but tobacco is the leaf, it's not the cigar.
Right.
So it's kind of the same.
Right.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
That's like when down south here you say, "Hey, get me a Coke," and you're like, "What kind of Coke?"
Yeah. What kind of Coke do you want? Or if you say, "Give me a beer," and they give you a Michelob Ultra, and you go, "No, I want a beer."
No, beer, please.
And if I could just say back to the beer, as much as I enjoyed the Saloon door, I would much rather hang out with the guy on this
with
can
the Iceland guy,
than the guy on that can.
I'm kind of with you. He does look a little bit cooler.
Yeah.
He's business in the front and in the back, I believe.
Exactly.
So, or party in the front and in the back.
It's a great beer to pair with cigars.
Yeah, it really is. And in general, that style pairs pretty well, doesn't it, Ian?
Yeah. Wee heavies, otherwise known as Scotch ales, are great. And you can get Founders makes one called Dirty Bastard that is outrageously good.
I like that one.
Yeah, at all times.
Yep.
And they make a few variations of it too.
Right. There's the Backwoods Bastard.
Right. And there's a few variations that are good, but Wee heavies are really easy to pair with cigars because the flavors just for whatever reason work. Yeah, they work well together.
I find that, and as you know, I'm a fan of IPAs and I love them, but they don't always pair well with cigars. But maltier beers that are a little more malt forward, have a tendency to be a little bit better match. And then, of course, your stouts and porters generally pair pretty well as well. We're not going to do a stout today, but we are just a little bit later on in the show going to be doing a barley wine, which is, I think, your favorite style of beer.
I love barley wines.
Yes. Do you have a favorite style? Is that your favorite?
That might be my favorite. Porters, wee heavies, barley wines. That's where I like to live.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I love doubles, triples. I love Belgian style beers really a lot too, and they also pair well with cigars a lot of times. Although if you get too fruity of a Belgian and you have too heavy of a cigar, they can clash a little bit. But most of the time, anything in the medium and lighter range on a cigar with a Belgian works really well too.
Absolutely. Well, I tell you what, we are going to wrap up this segment. We will be back to we haven't talked much whiskey today, but that's about to change because we're about to taste a very special Garrison Brothers. That's next on Smoking and Toasting. Welcome back, my friends. It's Smoking and Toasting, our program which is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. We've talked a lot about cigars today, but now the top has been popped on a really interesting bottle of Garrison Brothers. So, Doug, if you wouldn't mind, tell us again about this bottle.
So this is the 2024 Ladybird, which this is the second time they've done this, and I missed out on the first one. Tried to get my mitts on it.
Because it's very limited, right?
Very limited. And it's one of those things, I mean, you would see it aftermarket for kind of ridiculous prices. And it just so happened that my girlfriend and I were in Fredericksburg, just sort of enjoying a few days away. And the day we were coming back was the day they were actually doing the release of these bottles at the distillery.
Completely coincidental.
Totally. But I asked her, I said, hey, would you mind if we stopped? I actually said, would you mind if we stopped real quick on the way home to grab a bottle of this? And she was like, yeah, that's perfectly fine.
Well, I mean, if you're coming back from Fredericksburg, it's really not that far out of the way.
Why wouldn't you?
And you know, listen, little white lies get told all the time. For example, my wife and I will be watching a movie and I'll pause it and I'll tell her, I just need to pee real quick. Yeah, used to I could pee real quick. Now, not so much.
The process.
Men of a certain age.
It may take a few moments, you know.
Yeah.
But in any case,
well, we got there and we stayed. So when we got to the stopping point, when the traffic just came to a dead stop, we were 1.7 miles away, and it took about 100 minutes to go that last little stretch because of the line of everybody trying to get these.
But you managed to get a couple of bottles.
We managed to get 2 bottles because there were 2 of us in the car. So when I got there, they said, well, how many do you want? I said, how many do you want me to have? And they said, well, it's 1 per person. And so here's the deal. I said, I've got about 7 people asleep in the back. I'd rather not bother them.
Yes.
It just goes, well, if you can just give me their driver's license.
Yeah. And I got a family of 4 in the trunk.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, and they weren't having it. So we wound up buying 2, and it's but it's a very unique thing. And we, when I got them back here, I just invited some friends over, and we just killed the first bottle. We had a whole big group, and just we just poured it.
That's what it's for. It's for enjoying.
And it was great. And now I'm cool. I'm thrilled I get to crack the second bottle with you guys.
This smells so good.
We're going to talk about the cigar, but I have a feeling it won't be until the next segment because I've already put my nose to this, and I can tell we're going to be talking about this Garrison Brothers Ladybird for a few minutes.
Yep.
It's got a little bit of spice to it. It's got a nice cinnamon on the back of the palate.
Big time cinnamon.
It's got a little buttery kind of note down the middle of it that's really interesting.
I get floral out of it.
Well,
Does it feel the what?
raisins.
Oh.
Great. It's great.
It is really good. And now I'm going back to the cigar, which we haven't even talked about yet. But
Oh, yeah, we lit our new cigars. These are the vinyl draft edition
They are.
of the Stallone. And it's a beautiful barbershop pole. What are the wrappers on this?
This is Habano Maduro, 2000, and Connecticut.
wow.
From Connecticut.
This one, I'll just mention, we only have a minute left in the segment, and I do want to talk a little more about this whiskey, and we have drinking news coming up. But I will just say, one of the things I loved about this cigar was the very first puff was full of flavor. It wasn't like a Nicaraguan pepper blast or anything like that, but it was just so much flavor. And often when I smoke a cigar, even cigars that I really wind up loving, it takes a good, quarter of an inch or so before the cigar really establishes itself and starts to show the flavors. And this one, from literally the first puff while lighting it, I got flavor on this that was very pleasant, kind of toasty.
Look at how much smoke comes out with each puff, too.
And I love the Barber Pole cigars, but they're not just a novelty. There's a thing going on here as you burn through both of these wrappers that really impacts the evolving flavor of the cigar, and I absolutely love it. This is wonderful. We'll talk more about it, and we also have drinking news coming up next, and we've got to talk more about this whiskey, and there's Barleywine on the way. Oh, we got a lot of show to do in a little time. Stand by. It's Smoking and Toasting. Welcome back, my friends. It's Smoking and Toasting, where, boy, we've had some good stuff today. Our program is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. We're on location.
This is a fine spirit.
Yes, it is. And a fine cigar, too, which we've got to talk about a little bit more, and we will. But first, on location in Kemah at Vinyl Draft, it's time for Drinking News.
Drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. A Florida man with one arm said he had a gator for a pet. When asked about his absent arm, he said,
I have to take my gator to the vet.
drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news.
Cheers, y'all. Drinking News is the segment on the program that, for some unknown reason, has actually become the most popular thing that we do. We're not sure why or how. We're just glad someone's paying attention on some level. Drinking News is where we bring you a story from the news. It's not a parody story from The Onion or anything like that. It's something that actually appeared in the news. And Drinking News stories are sometimes, even perhaps often, about drinking. Not always, but they are always best enjoyed if you've been. I was trying to give you time for the sound effect there.
If you've been longer to get out of there.
Drinking. So today's Drinking News story is, in fact, about drinking. But more broadly, we're going to talk today about America's obsession. No, it's not Yellowstone. Although the good news is that the popular neo-Western is coming back to wrap up their storylines. The bad news
is about Taylor Swift.
The bad news is that it will return in the summer of 2078 when almost anyone listening to my voice right now will be dead. I'm kidding. It's coming back sometime in November. But Kevin Costner is not, which is kind of like All in the Family returning without Archie Bunker, or Joni Loves Chachi returning with, well, Joni and Chachi. But that's not important right now. The obsession we want to talk about today is social media. You know, social media. The place where you go to see hilarious videos of a cat playing in the piano, and instead you get assaulted by the views of somebody who thinks the Earth is flat, the Grand Canyon was carved by aliens from the planet Dumbass 4, and your local school board is secretly run by lizard people wearing human disguises. Elon Musk, I am looking in your direction. But even though Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and all the rest have done more to ruin Thanksgiving dinners than all the underdone turkey in the world, our focus today is not on the political stuff, but on what seems to be humanity's need to post details of every single mundane thing they do online. I mean, I realize that...
Yeah, don't take pictures of McDonald's fries. Come on, people.
I realize you're proud of your toddler going duty in the toilet for the first time, and you should be. But we don't all need to witness the blessed event on video. And I'm not saying that we don't really want to watch you unboxing whatever new gadget you ordered online. But wait, yes, I am saying that. That is, in fact, exactly what I'm saying. It's cool that you got a new toaster, but I really don't need to see you taking it out of the box and removing the styrofoam. I've got cat videos I'm trying to watch. This incessant desire to post the most ridiculous things on one's feed can also really work against you, as it did in the case of this week's Drinking News. An Ohio man...
Ohio man.
I didn't know if you were going to do the for an Ohio man or not. So
I don't have a separate jingle for Ohio.
That's right. An Ohio man, 28-year-old Dustin Ritkers, found all of this out the hard way recently. Dustin, in an apparent attempt to look cool, posted a 12-second video on his personal Facebook page, one with no privacy settings of any kind, that caught some interest that he wasn't necessarily looking for. In the clip, the Ohio man is shown driving his car, and he looks into the camera while music plays in the background, then raises his eyebrows and takes a swig from a partially covered bottle of alcohol. As the clip ends, the camera is flipped around to show his hand with only one finger raised to guide the steering wheel, while windshield wipers move across the front glass of his vehicle. This clip, as you might expect, got attention on Facebook.
We're dealing with a downright Einstein here.
Where a friend of his summed it up best with only 2 words by commenting, "Dude, really?" Not to be deterred, Ritkers responded, "I am I'm a good driver, don't worry. And went on to post, I've got one finger on the steering wheel while Facebooking while it's raining. SMH, I am good. I am a pro. Franklin County Sheriff Zach Scott said that a tipster with a Facebook account warned deputies about the pro who was drinking and driving, and deputies tracked the suspect's car down and pulled him over near State 665 and Hibbs Road.
I like the way that immediately after I am a pro, it was followed by Deputy County Sheriff said.
The Ohio man, of course, pleaded not guilty in Franklin County Municipal Court on 5 misdemeanor charges, including operating a vehicle under the influence of alcohol or drugs and having an open container in a vehicle. So the moral of today's story? Maybe be a little more selective in what you post online for the entire world to see. Maybe don't try to show off your inebriated one-finger driving skills to your 17 followers on Facebook. And maybe...
Because one of them's a narc.
And maybe don't plead not guilty when there is obvious video evidence of you doing the thing.
Obvious video evidence.
Take all the time you need with that one. Now, as those of you who are regular Smokin' and Toastin' listeners are already most likely beginning to dread, it is a fact that these stories sometimes inspire me in an artistic way. I've been known to write poems, sonnets, and even songs that I clearly would never post on Facebook, but for some unimaginable reason, I feel compelled to share with you here on Drinking News. And so, without even a hint of a request to do so, and against the advice of a licensed therapist, I'd like to now offer up to you my latest poem, written from the inspiration of this particular story. A little poetry reading music, please. And it goes a little something like this. An Ohio man, acting quite dopey, should really have tried to be low-key. In the clip on his socials, he was hammered while mobile. Now it's him getting hammered in the pokey. Kind of brings a tear to your eye, doesn't it?
His too.
Reporting live from Franklin County, Ohio, where Ritgers just said to me, "Hold my beer and video this." My name is Cruz, and that is your...
Drinking news, drinking news. That's our time for drinking news.
Cheers, y'all. So the thing I like least about Drinking News isn't even the poem. It's that sometimes my cigar goes out while I'm doing the story. And,
It was worth it. It was worth it.
Okay, well, thank you. That makes me feel better. So let's go back real quickly to this cigar, because we haven't really discussed it in full. Was this made, Doug, specifically for Vinyl Draft by Stallone Cigars?
Yeah.
Yes.
And I thought he was kidding.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I
So
really
he
did.
offered.
Yeah, he did. So it was, after, we became friends, he would come down here, and we had done an event here, an Ash and Mash event. And it was, it's like 11:30. It was long after it was over. And we were smoking. He says, I want to make a cigar for you. I said, oh, yeah? He goes, yeah. He goes, I want to make a cigar for this place. He goes, I want to make this. I was like, yeah, man, you should do that. And just sort of, kind of let it go. And it was part of a conversation. And, we talked, several times again. And he asked me, he says, have you given any more thought to what I said about making a cigar for you? And I thought, not overly, but are you serious? And he said, oh yeah. And we started having these conversations about what it would take to make that happen and how he would go about doing it. And I said, well, yeah, we kind of, there's a lot of detail you have to discuss. And then he created, was it 5 blends that you did?
Yep.
So he created 5 different blends, and he brought them to me, bundles of each one. And
This
was
is the part
telling
where
me,
I'm so jealous.
yeah, right. It was a cool thing, and he was kind of telling me about each bundle and what it is. And then he gets to the last one, and he says, "Now this," he says, "this is the Doug cigar." He said, "This is the cigar that I made for my friend." And he said, it has everything I know you love. It's coffee, there's hints of vanilla. It's not, because one thing I told him was I wanted it to be medium bodied, and I really wanted a barber pole. And so we're kind of going through all of that. And So he leaves them with me, and I said, okay, well, I'll smoke through them and see how we're doing. And so I remember calling him about 10 days later, and he says, did you decide on what you want? And I said, I did. I said, and I don't know if it's my self-loathing bubbling to the surface, but I really didn't like the Doug cigar at all. I mean, so the one that was just everything that was just the one I didn't care for. It was still good, but everything else but this one. And I think this was number 2 of the bundle. I said 2. I said, my God, it's unbelievable. I keep going back to that one, and I'm almost out of them. And it's like, I don't want to smoke the last 2 because it's so good. And that's what we wound up going with. And it took a long time. I mean, it took, what was it, 5 months, 6 months? Before,
6 months, yeah.
About 6 months before they landed here.
See, now I find myself really wanting to taste the Doug cigar. Like what? Like,
are there any Doug cigars? I eventually, I mean, look, they're all still good cigars.
Yeah.
we might have it at the factory.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
I'll bring some.
I'm curious about what he thought would be the perfect blend for you.
Yeah, well, exactly. And I was like, wow, and it should be. And then with this one, though,
This one really knocked your socks off.
This one, it just did. And it was such a great process because, you know, he had me work on the design of the box. And, you know, what the band logo would look like and where it would go and what color it would be, what the box would say on the front, what the box would say on the bottom. So it's got my digital signature on the bottom, his digital signature on the bottom. We just put this whole thing together. And then you would get the text messages, you know, throughout the process. The first box was just done, and it was just a picture of the box.
Right.
It's like, oh, you know, I get that, you know, and I'd share the pictures. Hey, look, they just rolled the first cigar. And somebody told me, see, you're like somebody that's about to have a baby.
Here's the nursery. Here's the baby booth.
It's like each one was like a sonogram photo. And it just started getting closer and closer. And I remember getting the picture of the cigars actually in the box. And, you know, it's all still in Nicaragua. And I'm just sitting there looking at it, and it was just, it was such a unique experience to be a part of it. I'm so grateful to him for letting me be a part of that, you know, watching this. And then, of course, the day they arrived was just,
I mean, just watching you talk about this, you look like a kid whose Christmas is 2 days away.
Yeah, or you look like the expectant dad who's about, you know, the wife's about to have the baby.
And it was kind of like that. And he was great in the sense that he didn't just, okay, that's the one you want. Okay, well, they'll get there when you get there. We would talk about, you know, where we were in this process, and we're probably about 3 more months before they're actually going to land in the U.S. And okay, and it was just a time I value so much that, and it was great to be a part of it. And they were just magnificent, and everybody that smokes this cigar, it's so nice to have something that has your name on it, or the name that you created on it.
Yeah,
and be able to with such a sense of pride say, smoke that.
It's pretty outrageously good.
I want to thank you
really
too
good.
for not, during this process, you know, when it was the boxes were being made and they rolled the first one, for not doing a Facebook post with a picture of you and Tony and saying we're pregnant, because that, you know, I've never believed in that anyway. When people do that, we're pregnant. No, dude, she's pregnant.
Yeah.
You did your part and had fun, and now she's
go.
pregnant.
There you go.
Yeah. So
And here we are all this time later. I'm still having fun.
Yeah, well, that's good. It's absolutely good. No, this is wonderful, and it's such a different flavor profile from the first one that we smoked, but it's just absolutely wonderful. It's every bit as complex, a little bit lighter, but not that it's not medium bodied. It is medium bodied, but it's just got a wonderful way that the flavors, and this is one of all my favorite cigars do this. The flavors just kind of weave in and out. You notice different things as you go, and then maybe something takes a backseat and then it comes back in again. And I suppose some of that would have to do with the fact that it's a barber pole wrapper. Is that right?
Yeah, sure. And actually, going back to the process, this blend is the one that fits better my personal palate.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought it was not going to fit what he was looking for. Right. So that's the curious fact about this. You know, we ended up with the blend that I thought Les is going to like, but this is the blend that I like more out of the 5.
Love that.
Into those barber poles, because Stallone never had a barber pole before.
Oh, well, For a first try, this is spectacular.
Oh, yeah.
Now, we're just about out of time for this segment, but I just wanted to mention we haven't talked about the barley wine yet, but I noticed that Ian has already poured himself a second helping. So I'm guessing you're going to have something to say about
I've been
this.
doing research, and it takes a second helping to figure out just how much I like this.
Okay, well,
It's a lot.
we will talk about that coming up. Smoking and Toasting on location in Kima at Vinyl Draft with Tony Barrios from Stallone Cigars. We'll be right back. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting, and we are all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars
I love
on
those
location at Vinyl Draft in Kima with Tony Barrios from Stallone Cigars. And you can tell, I think, when a show has gone well, and that's when it doesn't feel like we had time to adequately talk about all of the things
Right,
that we're tasting and stuff. The barley wine, I haven't even sipped this yet, so I'm going to do that while Ian talks about the Bottle Logic Brewing Flesh to Stone Peach Barley Wine.
First off, on the nose, it's so interesting because you get that distinctive barley wine dark fruit date kind of raisin dark fruit. There's a bourbon note in there.
Yeah.
There's peach somewhere hiding around the outside edge. And on first sip, it is as sticky and ridiculous sweet as a barley wine is supposed to be. And then it finishes with like peach cobbler. It's pretty.
It is peach cobbler. You're absolutely right.
pretty amazing.
It's not just peach, it's peach cobbler.
Yeah, it's because you get the peach flavor, but it's peach, but with a little bit of that crust, a little bit of the like almost a graham crackery thing going on in it. It says English style barley wine aged in a combination of bourbon and peach brandy barrels, and holy moly, this is fantastic.
When I was a kid, we had a peach tree, and when the peaches would come in, my mom would take them, and she would make peach cobbler, and that is exactly what I get on the finish of this. Is that exact? Almost takes me back to that time. You know, it's really.
Editors
really
says director's notes. I had that familiar conviction that life was beginning over again with the summer.
I like that.
It's pretty amazing. I'm looking for the ABV on this.
And again, while
It's
you're
a
looking
little
for
bit
the,
boozy too.
again, while you're talking about that, I just want to mention also goes beautifully with this Vinyl Draft Toro that we're smoking. Just really works well. But I get the impression that this cigar would match with a lot of things. No, you know?
It's very versatile.
Yeah.
This is coming in at 11.5%.
Okay.
So it's pretty big. It's not amazingly big, but it's pretty big. But man, is it good.
We've had Bottle Logic beers on the show before, but it has been a while since we've had a Bottle Logic.
It has been.
And this one is well worth the wait. It is absolutely delicious. I didn't ask you, Tony, but are you a barley wine fan? Is this something you've been exposed to before?
Yeah, I mean, I love to try different kind of, you know, beer and spirits, you know, and that's one of my things. You know, I collect rums. I'm a rum collector.
Do you have a favorite?
Yes, there's a lot of favorite rum that I have, you know, from Venezuela.
Oh, yeah.
I think Venezuela stands high in the rum section. You know, there's some rums that are very complex from Venezuela that they can taste almost kind of cognac flavor.
Yes,
you know?
absolutely.
And you know, in Venezuela, to be able to color rum, they have to be coming not from the juice of the cane, from the honey of the cane, which is different.
Yeah,
90% of the rums comes from only for the juice.
Right, sure.
And second, has to have at least 2 years aging to have the name rum on it.
Wow, that is really cool. We've had Venezuelan rum on the show before, and we've also had one of our favorite guests is Greg Duxakis, who is with Plantation Rums, and they do rums from all over, from the Caribbean, from a number of different countries, and we always enjoy what he brings.
I was not when we started this show. I was not really hip to rum. I knew what it was, of course, but it wasn't like one of my favorite things. I wouldn't reach for it. But since then, I have found that I love the funkier the rum is. I love those crazy exotic flavors that you can get in rum, like the chemical and the rubbery kind of flavors that you can get on top of the tropical flavors. Rum is such an interesting thing.
It really is an interesting
so many
spirit.
flavors in it.
And
It's a whole world.
becoming more and more popular all the time.
Now, have you tried the whiskey after the rum?
No, because
getting ready to.
my whiskey is empty.
Your whiskey is broken, so fix that.
Well, while he does that, and I want to go back to that, I just want to thank you, Tony, for being. You not only have brought great cigars to the show today, but you have really educated us on some things about cigar blending, and I love because I am fascinated by it. If there is such a thing as reincarnation, I hope I'm living well enough in this life to come back as a cigar blender in the next.
Wouldn't that just be the greatest?
That's what I want to do.
I'm very happy and humbled to be here, and very grateful with you guys all, including my friend Dog and you guys being
and you did
the show.
You did a nice line with the taking the gator to the vet. Nice job with that line too. So we appreciate that.
So when you go from barley wine back to whiskey, it turns the whiskey into a vanilla butter and cinnamon bomb.
Big time vanilla.
Crazy.
There was vanilla in there that I noticed before, but not to the extent that I noticed it after.
It also brings out a little bit, bear with me on this, a little bit of classic pink bubble gum pops up in there.
Mm-hmm.
Just especially like in the retro hail on it. It's really interesting that I didn't detect upon first trying it. Bubblegum's one of those flavors that happens in whiskey a lot of times, but
so a few questions to deal with before we wrap up. Doug, this final draft cigar is from Stallone Cigars. Is this available only at your shop?
Yes.
Okay, so if you want this one, you got to come here. Is it a limited thing? Will you keep having this, or are there only so many boxes and then it's gone?
We're going to keep going with it. In fact, when we wrap up here, we're going to. I'm placing another order for the next batch, and the only change that we'll be making is and I've already peeled that one off, but the vinyl draft band on there, right under that, we're going to just put Kima, Texas.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
What does this sell for here?
10.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, wait a second. At a cigar lounge.
Yep.
And a upper end restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
And
this sells for $10.
Yep.
Wow, that's impressive. It really is.
we sell them by the box. I have several people. I'll give a shout out to our friend Bill Provenzano. He always buys them by the box when he comes in here, and it's just
what's the box count?
I do the box. Well, that's the thing. It's 20.
Okay.
But I do the box for $170.
Oh, nice.
So you wind up getting 3 of them for free when you buy by the box. And members here at the club, they get 10% off all the cigars. That's part of the membership thing here. So I mean, I have this thing where I don't have anything here that I really dislike.
Yeah.
But what I love, in fact, one of the things that we did here, this room used to be called the Ash and Mash Room. It's now the Stallone Lounge.
Yeah.
And one humidor is devoted only to his products. Have the whole line in that humidor, and it's a really cool thing because no matter what you're looking for, it's in there. And I love being able to say, I stand behind every single stick in that box.
That is wonderful.
They're all fantastic.
Tony, thank you so much for imparting your blending wisdom on us today. Congratulations on the just outstanding nature of your cigars. I assume probably what's next for you is trying to gain wider and wider distribution so people will know.
Yep.
People will know and be able to find your cigars easier. But we would sure love to have you come back on the show again when you can and talk to us more about blending. Maybe if you have something new coming out that you want to discuss or make sure. We'd like to do our part in helping people know about Stallone Cigars.
Absolutely.
Because these are wonderful.
Guys,
thank you so much for doing this and allowing us to be here today. Thank you for the cigars and this wonderful. Oh, that's the other thing, by the way. Real quick before we go, if you find yourself in an hour-long line in High, Texas?
Texas.
Just keep following the cars because there might be a bottle of this at the end of it. It's kind of like the gold at the end of the rainbow.
Yes,
have a wonderful week, everybody. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Gentlemen.
And as we like to say at the end, cheers, y'all.
Cheers, y'all.